Part 95. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 942. Similar to Fan Bei's situation, Xiaolin is also helpless in Binhai. He doesn't know the people in the company very well. If he is driven away this time, he will really be homeless. The only good person is Josephine alone. Although Josephine is his friend, the friendship between gentlemen is as light as water. He cherishes Josephine as a friend and does not want the relationship between the two to be overshadowed by money, so no matter how difficult it is, he would rather get a slap in the face. Even though he was a fat man, he was unwilling to speak to Josephine. Josephine had been observing him on Weibo for nearly half a year, and determined that he had a character that was obsessed with saving face and suffering. He was very cautious when dealing with him and resolutely refused to give Xiaolin a chance to raise money, so now the two of them, the relationship was already very close. Except for the 10,000 yuan incident, Josephine acted as if he respected his brother and didn't notice his financial difficulties. Xiaolin was naturally embarrassed to ask him for money. There was no money in his hand, and when Xiaolin was driven away by Lily again, he suddenly felt guilty and short of breath. He was originally quite honest, although he started to bluff and made trouble, but now once he was refuted by Lily, he would like a balloon that has been popped and can no longer be blown up. He sat down again reluctantly and snorted. "You didn't tell me these things before. I will find a way to make money. The manager said that I have done a good job this year and is going to try to let me take on cases with other people in the team. Life will always get better in the future," he said this, not daring to ask Lily to get out for a while. She silently lowered her head and picked up the cutting board. Not long after, Lily only heard the sound of Xiaolin boiling water to wash the pot. The gas stove seemed to be turned on again. She sneered and hugged a pile of clothes back to the room. After a long time, Xiaolin came into the room with some embarrassment. "Honey, don't be angry. I know I was wrong. I have washed the pot again and cut the green onions. My husband will cook noodles for you." After he finished speaking, Lily didn't say anything. He squatted in front of Lily again and picked up the things in the house that he had thrown on the ground when he lost his temper in the morning. "Aren't I anxious? You see, Sifin is so kind to us, and he also solved the betrothal gift issue for us, so that we can go smoothly. We got together smoothly. He stayed at our house last night. He was so hot that he was sweating profusely. You saw that you were sweating all over just after taking a shower. That's why I wanted to install an air conditioner. He doesn't usually use it, so it works too. I know my tone of voice is bad, so just treat me like a fart and let it go, right?" Although Fan Bei had a bit of a temper in the past, she generally knew the basics. Otherwise, when Xiaolin decided to come to Binhai for development, she would not have followed him to this strange city without hesitation. Neither of them have been developing particularly smoothly this year. Xiaolin sometimes worked overtime and came back late at night. If he hadn't worked in this company for a few years and accumulated some experience before changing jobs, he wouldn't have been able to bear it anymore. But although he usually tolerates it in the company, he somehow can't bear it at home. Fan Bei is considerate of him and knows that his work is not easy. Whenever he loses his temper, he mostly obeys him. There is no big problem between the two of them. Mao Dun and Xiaolin didn't even think about breaking up with Fan Bei. At this moment, he saw that Lily couldn't bear it anymore and turned her face. They actually handed back all the salary cards to him, which made him panic a little. "We have been together for so many years, and even graduating from college has not been able to break us up. We can't cross it now, right? Take the card back." My husband just wasn't a human being, and all he said was angry. "Both the card and the person are my wife, you." Yes, after Xiaolin finished speaking, he smiled flatteringly at Lily. "It's just my wife, you can't say anything about me and Sifin being together in the future. We are both grown men, how is that possible?" Behi looked at him with a cold look as he lowered his head to please, and his eyes suddenly narrowed. Zhao Lin's plot had harmed Fan Behi a lot. If his complaints hadn't attracted a vicious wolf like Josephine, he wouldn't have done it. The original owner was so troubled that he was unable to see his mother for the last time before his death. If she really fell out with Zhao Lin now, it would be equivalent to indirectly pushing Josephine. If she severed the relationship with Zhao Lin now, it would not be so easy to retaliate against Josephine in the future. She was not prepared to do this. Cheaper for two people. So after hearing Zhao Lin's words, she pointed to the cabinet and ordered, "Bring me a veil, I want to wipe my head." In the past, such things were usually done by Fan Behi for Zhao Lin. When she asked her, Zhao Lin was stunned for a moment. He was not happy and his face was gloomy. But when he saw Lily like that, he hesitated. Still got up and wiped his hands, took the handkerchief and threw it on the bed. Lily could see his little thoughts. She picked up the handkerchief and wiped her hair while sneering. "I also said not to mention you and Josephine being together again. You have done it, so what is there to say? I usually ask you to go shopping with me, but you always say you are tired. When I accompany Josephine to watch football, you are in good spirits. Who else's boyfriend is like you? You have no money and no ability. You can't even come up with a gift of 10,000 yuan, but you still have the nerve to say that Josephine is my benefactor." Zhao Lin always likes to talk to her. Compared to Josephine, Lily also deliberately used others to provoke Zhao Lin. The original owner used to be too worried about Zhao Lin, and was deeply afraid of hurting his man's self-esteem. Sometimes he couldn't say anything when he was angry, but Lily had no scruples. Zhao Lin stood up with a pale face, pointed at her and shouted, "Fan Lily, don't you push yourself too far." He yelled a little too loudly, but Lily's voice was louder than him, and she stood up immediately. "So what if you try too hard? What kind of virtue do you still don't know? You can't see the mirror every day, and you don't understand in your heart. You're not allowed to speak to me, right? If you can, get out." Even if Zhao Lin could endure it, he finally couldn't bear it after hearing these words. He moved his lips, turned around and walked out the door with a gloomy face. Lily didn't hold him back, but waited for him to go out. The door slammed shut with a bang. Zhao Lin looked at the locked room outside the door with a wry smile on his face. At this time, he was bragging to a group of friends in the club that he had recently fallen in love with a good-looking man. Yesterday, he deliberately slept at Lily's house on the pretext of being too late to watch football, and in the morning he deliberately slept in front of Zhao Lin. He looked like he couldn't stand the heat, as if he was suffering from heat stroke. Zhao Lin, the fool, was really worried. He said intentionally or unintentionally that he usually turned on the air conditioner at home, but there was no air conditioner at Zhao Lin's house last night. Zhao Lin didn't speak at that time, but Josephine clearly saw the flash of determination in his eyes. "Look, what's so strange about spending money to play with a man? I didn't spend any money on this man, and I was able to get him to fall into my arms smoothly, and he was even willing to spend money on me," Josephine said proudly. He grabbed a bunch of grapes, took 2 bites and chewed them. Seeing that everyone was a little disbelieving, he couldn't help but laugh. "If you don't believe me, look at it." After he finished speaking, he took out his mobile phone and showed the photos of Fan Behi and Zhao Lin, who bought good wine and food and entertained him to eat, for everyone to see. Finally, he also showed the photos of his morning today. After explaining the little calculation he had made, he looked at a group of people who looked puzzled. He shook his head and said, "Don't you understand? Are you just an ordinary person? I have already figured out whether these two people have money or not." Zhao Lin worked as a technician in a small technology company, and his monthly salary was only a small amount. The woman named Fan sold jewelry in a shopping mall. The two rented a house in the north of the city, and their monthly rent cost 2,000. If you treat me to food and drinks this month, you will definitely run out of money. If Xiaolin wanted to install an air conditioner for him, he would definitely not be able to pay for it, and Fan Bei might object. This kid was coaxed by me to be very obedient to me. If Fan Bei said he had no money, the two of them would definitely quarrel. Once they quarreled, Xiaolin would definitely call me and ask me to go drink. If I persuade him again, Xiaolin, of course I am reasonable and courteous, but the person with the surname Fan will inevitably dislike him, so I tried to persuade the two of them to reconcile, but he listened to my words, and even if they are in a good relationship, they still have to live apart. He was proud of himself. After he finished speaking proudly, he reached out and flicked the screen of his phone. This is what Sun Tzu said in The Art of War, 36 Strategies, attack the heart first. Once the relationship between the two goes awry, Xiaolin will definitely rely on him even more. As long as he plans in detail a few more times, Xiaolin, no matter how straight he is, will involuntarily feel disgusted with Fan Bei. Don't be afraid that you can't bend a straight man. Anyway, people come up with the method. Josephine is more patient. He is like a leopard hunting. As long as Xiaolin slowly starts to hate women, he can start. The next step was taken. When he no longer objected to Xiaolin's moves, that was when Josephine could truly launch an offensive and taste the fruits of victory. Thinking of that scene, Josephine couldn't help but close his eyes and took a long breath. What's the point of looking for a lost flower? It's interesting to find a man like Xiaolin. Winning a man is simply a sense of accomplishment, let alone competing with a woman for a man and breaking up a couple who were originally planning to get married. Couple, this is a very interesting challenge for Josephine, not to mention it is Xiaolin's first time. He had fun during the process and found a way to pass the time. Even though he spent a lot of time this time, Josephine also felt it was very worthwhile. Several friends laughed loudly, saying that Josephine's move was too cruel. Someone asked him for advice, but he was not humble and said a few words. But time passed by, and his cell phone never rang. Although Josephine was still drinking and eating with others, he gradually felt a little uneasy. According to his estimation, Xiaolin and Fan Bei were 100% going to quarrel today. When he left, he specially warned Xiaolin, saying that he did not dislike Xiaolin for not having air conditioning at home. He emphasized that he just said it casually. Xiaolin he didn't say anything, but when he left, he clearly saw Xiaolin turning around and entering the house. He guessed that he had discussed it with Fan Bei. Could it be that he guessed wrong this time? Fan Bei, a fool, really loved Xiaolin so much that he agreed to buy an air conditioner. Already. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 943. If that were the case, the game would be meaningless. Thinking of this, Josephine began to feel a little tricky. He didn't do it to turn on the air conditioner, otherwise he would have stayed at home and not gone out. His main purpose was to cause the two of them to quarrel. If the purpose was not achieved, it would have been a waste of his hard work last night. Josephine felt a little unwilling to think about it. Everything seemed to be under his control before, but this time Xiaolin didn't act according to his script, which made Josephine feel a little unhappy. He picked up the phone and subconsciously wanted to call Xiaolin, but he replied. He turned around and noticed his actions, and quickly put down the phone. He couldn't take the initiative to call him right now, otherwise he wouldn't be able to prevent his prey from becoming suspicious. His character is like this. He always likes to do everything perfectly and slyly to weave a net and dig a hole so that the prey falls in and is swallowed by him and never escapes. He cannot mess up his position at this time. Josephine's original calculation was correct. In order to let him live better in his own home, Xiaolin did have the idea of buying an air conditioner, and he did quarrel with Fan Bei after sending him away. The two had a big fight today, and the original owner actually called him as he imagined and asked him to help him plead. Even the development of the plot is exactly as he imagined. He, a rich second generation who has never suffered or been tired since childhood, can persuade Xiaolin not to spend money for him, but Fan Bei he is stingy and reluctant to part with money. Comparing the two, Xiaolin will indeed have a bad impression of Lily. But he calculated everything and figured out everything, but he didn't figure out that Fan Bei he had changed. Today Lily deliberately mentioned it in front of Xiaolin and asked Xiaolin to say that Josephine was good at everything. Let him go and be with Josephine. How could a man with such a good face like Xiaolin mention such words in front of Josephine? Although he had a quarrel with Lily today, when he thought of what Lily said, he and Josephine were like a man and woman in a relationship. Xiaolin felt something was wrong. He subconsciously wanted to call Josephine. He was used to asking his good brothers for advice when he encountered any problems, but as soon as he took out the phone, he thought of what Lily had said. If he asked himself to marry Josephine, how could he have the nerve to tell Josephine such a thing? Of course the phone call can no longer be made. He originally wanted to post on Weibo, but he hesitated for a while. If he complained about his girlfriend on Weibo, saying that he and his good brother were like a couple, he didn't want to expose such a family scandal, so he hesitated for a while, and finally put the phone away. Back in the bag. On the other hand, Josephine waited and waited for a call but couldn't help but feel even more uncertain. It was no longer interesting to drink with a group of brothers. He made an excuse and said that he had to leave beforehand. As soon as he left the club door, he called Xiaolin. "Hey, Alan, what are you doing? I had a little quarrel with a friend tonight and I felt a little unhappy. There are 2 football games tonight, can you sit with me?" When Josephine approached Xiaolin at first, he used the excuse that he was unhappy and wanted to vent to Xiaolin. The so-called little things that caused him to be in a bad mood were naturally made up by him, but Xiaolin just fell in love with him and thought that Josephine regarded him as a true friend, so he was willing to tell him these intimate words were also because Josephine took the lead, so Xiaolin began to slowly vent to him. Josephine no longer needs to make such excuses recently, because most of the people talking are Xiaolin. Josephine spent most of the time just listening to his complaints and analyze his character from his tone to facilitate the next step. But the situation today was different. Something was obviously not right with Xiaolin today. Xiaolin had to complain to him if something troublesome happened in the past 2 months. Sometimes, even if Fan Bei he buys too many menstrual sanitary napkins, he will feel that she is wasting a man who doesn't know how to live at home. She may have had a fight with her girlfriend today but she didn't tell him. Josephine vaguely felt as if the prey wanted to escape from his control. In the past, when he would say that he was in a bad mood and wanted Xiaolin to sit with him, Xiaolin would usually agree immediately. When he got home, he and Fan Bei he would go out and buy good wine and food to prepare in advance. After he passed, the two of them ate and chatted directly. But today, as soon as Josephine said his words, there was a long pause, and Xiaolin actually refused. "I'm sorry Sifin, I have something else to do today. Let's wait for another day. I will apologize to you another day." Such an abnormal situation made Josephine a little unbelievable, so much so that Xiaolin on the other end of the phone cut off the call first, and he didn't come back to his senses for a long time. It's not that Xiaolin doesn't want Josephine to come over. He is still sitting in the stairwell in front of his house with nowhere to go. It seems that the mention of installing air conditioners this morning really pissed off Lily. It hasn't happened yet. Going out to look for him made Xiaolin feel upset and a little panicked at the same time. The two of them had said they were breaking up before because of the gift, but Xiaolin didn't really want to break up with Lily. Now Lily's behavior made him a little worried. Josephine called again. He was so shameless, how could he be willing? When Josephine saw his appearance at this time, he naturally refused. But after rejecting it, He felt a little guilty for some reason, so when Josephine didn't react, he quickly said a few words and hung up the phone. This is an old residential house. The house is not very soundproof. Lily also heard the sound of Xiaolin just sitting at the door talking on the phone. Knowing that he had not left, Lily ignored him and filled her stomach. He went back to his room, locked the door, and started practicing his physical skills. I don't know if it was because her physical attributes had increased significantly this time. She unexpectedly found that she had just started practicing the star body technique, and a large amount of spiritual power began to swim in her body. In addition, it seemed that there was something else. There was a power lurking deep in her soul, and it began to move as she moved, but it seemed to be sealed by something that could not be unlocked. The unexpected discovery made Lily quickly forget about the angry Xiaolin outside the door, and began to immerse herself in physical training. She worked tirelessly all night long, and it was bright outside in the morning. Lily was sweating profusely and stopped moving. She was now very sure that there was another force in her body. This should be related to the Tao Te Ching that wrongly sent into her body, because whenever she started practicing technique, when she introduced the spiritual power into her body and practiced the 9 Yang manual, she could vaguely feel the existence of this power, but when she practiced the Dao Dao Sutra, the feeling was much more obvious. But for some unknown reason, I can feel the existence of that power, but I just can't draw it into my body. She tried all night with no results. It was getting dark outside and Lily was not ready to try again. Although she didn't sleep all night, she seemed to be in good spirits. When she opened the bedroom door and went out, she saw Xiaolin in the room. The water was boiled in the kitchen, and he took out 2 bowls of condiments, as if he was cooking noodles. I don't know when he came back last night. When he saw Lily, he was a little embarrassed. He looked like he wanted to talk to her but couldn't put his face down. Lily ignored him. He went into the bathroom, took a shower and brushed his teeth. When he came out, Xiaolin had already left. He left a note in the kitchen. Although he didn't apologize again, there was a hint of flattery in his words. Lily only glanced at it and then moved her face away. When working during the day, she did sales work unlike Fan Beihee, who couldn't stand up to the college students in the past. She quickly made several deals and attracted the approving eyes of the sales supervisors in the same group. When she got off work in the evening, Lily approached her supervisor. He asked to borrow 200 yuan. She bought noodles yesterday, which only cost about 40 yuan. There are still 5 days before the salary is paid, so this amount of money will definitely not be able to delay it. Her work attitude was very good today, because the business she made allowed everyone to exceed their performance today. So when she asked to borrow money, her supervisor readily agreed to her request. Prices in Binhai are not cheap. If you want to live for 10 days with only 200 yuan, you have to live frugally, but you have to pay the monthly water and electricity bills. This is the most distressing point for Fan Beihee every time, even if she and Xiaolin, no matter how frugal one is on food and clothing, sometimes it's so hot that I can't bear to turn on the fan at night, but the monthly water and electricity bills are at least around 300, especially in the past 2 months, when Josephine comes over and turns on the TV until almost dawn every night. It's even more. To make this bad situation worse, no matter how much Fan Beihee tried to save, the electricity bill still kept rising. 200 yuan was not enough. Lily thought about it before getting off work, took out her mobile phone and searched some nearby nightclubs. She found a mid-range one and took a car there. There are a lot of nightclubs like this in Binhai, and most of them are selling people like sheep. Many men and women are going in and out of them under the neon lights. When Lily walked in, a wave of air conditioning hit her face. The lights in the hall were dim, and there were many people sitting together and whispering. Most of the people who came here were drunkards and not interested in drinking. When a few well-dressed girls saw a woman coming in, they wanted to get up, but sat back lazily. A few young and tall boys saw Lily coming in, but his eyes lit up, and he came forward with some enthusiasm. Lily first looked at the price list in the store. The price of a single table is not cheap. The appearance of the men and women here is not bad. Compared with the girls, the prices for men are more expensive. She picked 2 clocks for 500. The beautiful girl ordered for an hour and paid a deposit of 200. The waiter looked at her with surprise and quickly found 2 beautiful girls for her and took her into the box. "Is this your first time coming to our place, sister?" The 2 girls were about 20 years old, with heavy makeup on their faces and graceful figures. After entering the box and turning on the air conditioner, they took off their coats, revealing only trousers underneath. Body of. There is a bug and it has been corrected. To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 944. The 2 took off their clothes and wanted to lean towards Lily, but Lily sat on the sofa. "Are there any playing cards?" she asked the 2 girls for a moment. People who came to this place generally knew what the girls were doing after ordering them. Otherwise, why would they spend so much money? The 2 originally thought they had met a lace who liked women and loved to have sex with each other today. Unexpectedly, Lily looked calm and asked first if she had any playing cards. Some guests also like tricks. One of the girls nodded and pulled out a brand new box of playing cards from under the coffee table in front of the sofa. Lily reached out and took it. "Can you fight landlords?" The 2 girls with charming expressions didn't know what she meant, but after hearing what Lily said, they both nodded hesitantly. "The 3 of us happen to be playing poker to fight the landlords. The bombs can be stacked. It's 10 yuan a handful. Is there any problem?" Seeing that these 2 people can play the game of landlords, Lily breathed a sigh of relief. She thought she had only played for an hour today. "Joan, it would take about 10 minutes to teach these 2 people." She quickly finished explaining the rules and started playing cards. When the 2 of them heard her words, they were a little confused, but they both nodded. For the first 10 minutes or so, the 2 of them thought Lily was trying to play a new trick and didn't take it seriously. But as they both started to lose in the past 10 minutes, they gradually became serious. Lily's mental strength was very strong. She knew which card was played out and how many were left in their hands. With this, the 2 girls were no match for her. After an hour, one of them, who was slightly plumper, lost $1,077. The other taller guy lost less, but also lost more than 800. There was money piled up in front of Lily. After an hour, the 2 of them were red-eyed at the loss and still a little unconvinced. "Come again." "The time has come," Lily replied. She quickly collected the money in front of her, paid the remaining 400 per person as hourly fee, and deducted the 200 deposit she had paid at the counter in advance. Lily made a net profit of more than 1,000. When she came out of the nightclub, she breathed a sigh of relief. She finally didn't have to worry about the water and electricity bills in the next 2 days. It was already getting late when Lily came over from get off work. When she came out of the nightclub, Lily touched her phone and saw that it was already past 11 o'clock in the evening. Most of the buses here had finished their service, but there were still many taxis. The car was parked outside the nightclub, just waiting to attract nightclub business. Lily had money in her hands, so naturally she would not wrong herself. When he took a taxi home, Zhaolin sat in the living room with a gloomy face, and the TV was not turned on. When he heard the sound of the key opening the door, he turned his head. He looked towards the door. When he saw Lily coming in, his eyes lit up and he looked obviously relieved, and then he stood up angrily. "Why did you go?" He acted like a husband who caught an adulterer, with his fists clenched, "You get off work at 9 o'clock. Look at the time. It's almost 12 o'clock now. Where have you been and you're back now?" Zhao Lin's face turned red now, and his hair was messed up by him. "I had a fight with Lily yesterday." He thought later that he was wrong. He wanted to apologize, but he couldn't bear to do it. In the past 6 months, his work had been very unsatisfactory, and there was a pile of fire in his heart. When he was angry at work, he could not vent his anger on his superiors and colleagues. Fan Bei was the closest person to him. He would inevitably lose his temper. Yesterday, Lily scolded him and he ran out angrily. He came back halfway and tried to enter the room, but he couldn't turn the key. Lily didn't get up when he left this morning. Originally, she wanted to go home at night and apologize to her properly, but she didn't expect that he got off work at 7 o'clock, and it was already almost 9 o'clock when he came home. By the time he reached 10:30, he still hadn't seen Lily, and it was already 12 o'clock now. She just came back. This situation has never happened before. Fan Bei is now working in sales and has a lot of time. Usually, he works for 2 days and then takes 1 day off. He usually goes home after work and makes dinner in the refrigerator before going out in the morning. Here, he can warm it up and eat it directly when he comes home. Knowing that he has a heavy workload and many things to do every day, and the unfinished work will be taken home, so after get off work, he will buy some vegetables and come back to make him a midnight snack. The two of them, after living in Binhai for more than a year, today is the first time Lily returns home late. They had just had a fight yesterday, and Zhao Lin inevitably started to feel suspicious, always suspecting that Lily was going out with other men. My girlfriend is not bad in appearance and temperament. In addition, she is young and needs makeup because of work, so she is even more beautiful. It is not that no man has pursued Fan Bei before, but she is more traditional and is single-minded about herself. Zhao Lin didn't think about it randomly. Now that Lily had changed, she even drove him away and broke up yesterday, which made Zhao Lin feel a little uneasy. He remembered what Josephine had said to him accidentally, that a young and beautiful girl like Fan Bei would be very tempted outside, so she was afraid that one day she would dislike the poor and love the rich and leave him. When Josephine talked about this, his purpose was naturally to hope that Zhao Lin would have a worse impression of Fan Bei. After all, the basis for what he said was that Zhao Lin thought that Fan Bei's 10,000 yuan betrothal gift was rather Philistine. Zhao Lin felt really uncomfortable when he heard this and didn't take it seriously. He just didn't want to lose face in front of his brothers. He even replied loudly that if Fan Bei found a better one, he would clap her hands and send her away. At that time, he thought that Fan Bei could not leave him no matter what, but now Zhao Lin was not sure. "What does it have to do with you where I go?" Lily frowned, glanced at the excited Zhao Lin, and replied to him. Zhao Lin was silenced by her, and Lily said again, "Don't forget, we are not married yet, and we are not husband and wife, so why do you care so much about me?" Zhao Lin became a little anxious when he heard what she said. "We are an unmarried couple, and the betrothal gift has already been paid. That money was given by Josephine. According to your calculation, should I marry him?" Zhao Lin's face turned red when he heard this. Lily didn't want to pay attention to him, put down her bag and took a shower first, and got into the house. She had just spoken to Zhao Lin so rudely, and Zhao Lin was so angry that night that he still didn't knock on the door. Lily had her second day off, which happened to be the weekend. In the morning, she heard a knock on the door outside. This community was very old, and the two of them rented a house here. They didn't have many friends or relatives in Binhai, even if they were few people would come to visit on weekends, but after Zhao Lin got to know Josephine, he came often. At this time, Lily heard the noise outside and guessed that Josephine was here. Sure enough, Josephine's voice soon came from outside. "Alan, I guess you have a day off today, so I happened to come over to see you when you have time." Zhao Lin didn't take the initiative to contact him in the past 2 days, and he didn't even update his Weibo. Yesterday, he checked his mobile phone until midnight, but didn't wait for his message or call to talk. Josephine vaguely felt something was wrong. He had never encountered such a situation in his career, and he suddenly became uneasy. He knew that Zhao Lin would be resting at home this weekend, so he rushed over early in the morning. Zhao Lin usually has no money in his pocket and cannot go out to fool around during his breaks. Most of the time he spends time at home with Fan Beihee. It is easiest for a couple to stay together to develop feelings. What Josephine wants to do now is to destroy naturally. He would not give these two people a chance to cultivate their relationship again. He simply wished he could stick to Zhao Lin 24 hours a day so that he could get used to his existence as soon as possible, especially since Zhao Lin seemed to be cold to him in the past 2 days. After a while, he was feeling a little unwilling. Unexpectedly, as soon as he entered the door, he saw Zhao Lin looking haggard, with messy hair and unshaved face, as if he hadn't slept well in 2 days. There is no air conditioning in the living room, and I don't know if Zhao Lin took it to heart when he said it was hot when he left that day. Josephine felt a little unhappy when he thought of this. If Zhao Lin didn't take his words to heart, it proved that the honest prey he was looking for was already trying to turn him out of his palm, and he didn't value him as much as he imagined. And if Zhao Lin took his words to heart, it would be unusual for him to not have air conditioning installed in the past 2 days, and I don't know if he and Fan Beihee had a quarrel. Josephine calmed down and saw Zhao Lin turning his body sideways to let himself in. A wave of heat rushed towards him in the room. He used his palm as a fan to fan himself twice and asked deliberately, "Alan, do you have a fan? It's so hot all the way up the stairs. Why don't you install an air conditioner? I think you two are really tolerable sleeping in this room." He was no longer talking about something. Zhao Lin had recently quarreled with the original owner about the air conditioner, so Lily still ignored him. Josephine brought up the air conditioner again at this time, which made him feel a little sorry for his friend. Which made him feel a little upset for no reason, and he didn't want to say in front of Josephine that his salary was not enough to install an air conditioner, so he reluctantly shook his head and remained silent. "Why, did you quarrel with Miss Fan?" Seeing him like this, Josephine felt a little anxious and asked. In the past, Zhao Lin was always willing to share these worries with him. Generally, if there was something bothering him, even if he didn't ask, this fool would tell everything like he was pouring beans out of a bamboo tube. Unexpectedly, as soon as he asked, Zhao Lin frowned and forced a smile. "No, there is nothing to argue about." After saying that, he took the TV remote control and turned on the TV, feeling a little dazed. There was something very wrong with this look, and Josephine, as a veteran in love, could naturally tell it. He was a little obsessed with Lily. Josephine felt tight and cursed secretly. He had spent so much time trying to sow discord, but he never thought about pushing Zhao Lin and Fan Lily together again. If that was the case, it would be a waste of his previous months and efforts. He couldn't make Zhao Lin's heart move now. He didn't know what happened in the past 2 days, so he asked insinuatingly. After a long time, Zhao Lin finally couldn't bear it anymore. He threw away the remote control and turned to look at Josephine. "Josephine, what do you think this woman is thinking about?" To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 945. When Josephine heard that Zhao Lin was finally willing to speak, he felt relieved. "Women are troublesome. Don't you see that I would rather hang out with my brothers than have a girlfriend? I'm just minding my own business all day long. Let's go, I keep calling you everywhere and pestering you. It's so annoying. Why, did Miss Fan really quarrel with you? Aren't you a model couple?" He deliberately spoke in reverse, as if to be sarcastic. The listeners felt that something was wrong, but his expression seemed to be very serious. As soon as the words fell, Xiaolin fell silent again. Lily has not only been silent for the past 2 days, but also seemed to be very serious. On the contrary, he ignored him at all. This was not what he wanted to ask Josephine. He wanted Josephine to give him an idea on how to coax Lily to change his mind, instead of always listening to him talk about Lily. Bad words. Somehow, what Xiaolin thought was very reasonable before was now said by Josephine, and he felt a little harsh for no reason. So he shook his head and sighed. Recently, I wanted to marry Lily, but we had a fight yesterday. She actually said that you borrowed the 10,000 yuan betrothal gift, and said that she should marry you. Even a man can't bear such words, Xiaolin. No matter how honest and incompetent he is, the same is true. He didn't realize at the moment that when he said this, he felt a little unhappy with Josephine. When Josephine lent him 10,000, he originally felt grateful. But somehow, after thinking about it from a different angle, he felt that if Josephine hadn't lent him the 10,000 yuan, Lily wouldn't have said such words yesterday. When Josephine heard what he said, disgust immediately appeared in his eyes. He didn't like women. In fact, he doesn't like men that much, he just likes the pleasure of conquest. The sense of accomplishment when breaking up a couple who are in love and about to get married is more interesting than anything else. Although Fan Bei was somewhat pretty, he didn't like her. He had a lot of money and he had to spend it freely. What kind of woman wouldn't fall in love with you one after another? But his target was the man in front of him, so as soon as Xiaolin finished speaking, he was deeply afraid that Xiaolin would misunderstand and make it difficult for him to move in the future, so he quickly shook his head. Don't worry, I don't like Miss Fan. If you don't want it as a gift to me, you just like it. He was eager to clarify and didn't see Xiaolin when he heard what he said. His face immediately darkened. Before Josephine noticed this, he smiled and went to hug Xiaolin's shoulders. If Miss Fan promised me, I might as well change it to you. If it were you, I could accept it reluctantly. We are good buddies. To marry a woman, I might as well marry you. Ha 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 ha. After saying that, he laughed. Josephine's plan was to silently plant the idea in Xiaolin's mind that he would rather be with him. After all, it would take a lot of effort to brainwash a normal man into liking the same sex. Before he only showed that he was more suitable for Xiaolin than Fan Bei, and he magnified Fan Bei's shortcomings infinitely, making Xiaolin have the idea that women are troublesome. Now he tried to planting the idea in Xiaolin's mind that men are better than women would make it easier for him to do anything to him in the future. He picks up quickly. Originally, what he said today made the progress faster. But Xiaolin actually told him that he wanted to get married, which surprised Josephine. Xiaolin's decision undoubtedly broke his pace and made him panic a little, feeling that he should speed up his pace. Thinking about what I have done before, saying such things in such a joking way. Thinking about it, Xiaolin was unlikely to rebound, so Josephine still half-joked Xiaolin. If there hadn't been the quarrel between Lily and Xiaolin the day before yesterday, I'm afraid Xiaolin wouldn't have taken his words seriously. But the day before yesterday, Lily kept saying that Xiaolin wanted him to marry Josephine since he thought Josephine was so good. He was already feeling a little uncomfortable when he heard that, and then he heard Josephine say that he didn't like Lily. Instead of making Xiaolin feel happy, it made him feel a little unspeakably aggrieved. Josephine said he didn't like women like Lily, but she was his fiancée, so it proved that he could only find someone he didn't like. Xiaolin is always petty and loves to get into trouble. In the past, Josephine read his Weibo and guessed his character. He followed his temper and did not touch his negative side. Naturally, he felt that Josephine was good at everything, and indeed he was. What he was thinking was that he was becoming more and more dissatisfied with Fan Bei and getting closer to Josephine, but first Lily asked him to marry Josephine, which already made Xiaolin dissatisfied, and then he had obviously said that he wanted to marry Lily, but he not only refused to comfort her, but also said that he didn't like her. It turns out that Josephine's previous claim that he would be an equal regardless of money and status was actually a lie. Maybe this rich second-generation man was deliberately treating himself like a fool to make a fool of himself. Are you talking about marrying yourself? He doesn't find it disgusting to see two grown men, let alone why should he marry him? Doesn't this mean that Josephine regards himself as a woman? The more Xiaolin thought about it, the angrier he became. Resentment welled up in his heart. With a sullen face and no words, Josephine bumped into him. But do you really want to get married? Marriage is a grave, you have to think clearly. He was deliberately alarmist. He had told Xiaolin several times before about women before and after marriage, and he also fabricated many things. Tell him about your friend's unhappy life after getting married. Xiaolin was indeed frightened before, and when he was forced by Fan Bei's request for a betrothal gift, he really didn't want to get married. But at this time, he just said it casually. Josephine always stressed that he didn't think it before, but now Xiaolin was a little dissatisfied with Josephine. When he said this again, Xiaolin felt something was wrong. It's time for the male senior to get married, and the female senior to get married. We have been together for several years, and we have a relationship. Our parents have met. My parents like Lily quite a lot. Getting married is a matter of time. It just happened that we got married. Get married and focus on your career from now on. Xiaolin didn't know why he had to explain so much, and the more he said it, the more annoyed he became. I'm going to see if Lily is up. When Josephine heard what he said, he felt anxious and unwilling. If you get married now, you will have a lot of troubles in the future. If you don't believe it, just wait and see. Xiaolin ignored him and walked directly to the bedroom door. Josephine looked at his back gloomily, clenching his teeth. Something is wrong. I don't know what happened in the past 2 days. Xiaolin, who was still under his control, seems to have changed. He was always enthusiastic when he saw him coming over before, so I didn't ask him during the meal. She just brought him tea and water, or called Fan Lily to buy vegetables and cook. He didn't follow his advice, but Xiaolin was still very interested in what he said. But after he said so much today, Xiaolin actually became a little impatient. Today when he came over, Xiaolin's attitude became much colder. Something must have happened in the meantime. The more Xiaolin thought about what Josephine said before, the more he felt that something was wrong. He always felt very comfortable getting along with Josephine before, but now he was indescribably embarrassed. He knocked on Lily's door. At first she was afraid that Lily would not open the door in front of Josephine and embarrass him. Unexpectedly, Lily opened the door as soon as he knocked. When she saw Josephine sitting in the living room, she didn't even look at Xiaolin. He smiled at Josephine. The original owner hated Josephine deeply. When she saw Josephine, Lily felt as if someone had grabbed her. Josephine is 5 years older than the two of them. He is already 28 this year. He is 1.75 meters tall and his facial features are not bad. He looks very much like the popular Korean handsome men at this time. He has fair skin and single eyelids. Because he is rich. The dress is naturally okay. He often works out, and his strong chest muscles are wrapped under the silver gray shirt, and he almost opens the shirt when he breathes. Compared with Xiaolin, Josephine is undoubtedly much better. When Lily opened the door and smiled at Josephine, she found that Xiaolin, who was standing by the door, looked a little ugly. He clenched his teeth, his body was tense, his eyes were a little gloomy, and he reached over to pull Lily. Josephine is here. There is nothing to eat at home now. I'm going to buy groceries. Before Xiaolin could finish his words, Lily interrupted him directly. Brother Josephine hasn't been here for several days. I'm going to buy what he likes to eat today. After she finished speaking, she pretended to be serious. As Xiaolin entered the house to change clothes, he felt very uncomfortable when he heard this. Ever since the quarrel with Lily, Lily had never given him a good look, and she was either sarcastic or vicious when she spoke to him. Now when he saw Josephine and smiled, Xiaolin felt an unknown fire in his heart. And saw that when he reached out to pull Lily, she subconsciously hid, and couldn't help but become even more dissatisfied. He grabbed her waist and hugged her, dragging her towards the house. "We have no money, what kind of food can we buy? Sifan's family has money, but he doesn't like the side dishes you cooked." This is not what he said before. Whenever Josephine comes over, even if he has no money, Xiaolin will slap him in the face and pretend to be fat. Lily sneered at Xiaolin and stretched out her hand to push him. "No matter how much money you have, you can't lose a friend, right?" She deliberately emphasized the word friend, and saw Xiaolin's face darken, and Lily said again, "What's more, I borrowed 500 yuan from someone to prepare those who pay water and electricity bills. Now that Brother Sifan is here, they will naturally have to buy groceries first. When the money is not enough, we will find a way to pay it back to others." When Xiaolin heard that she had borrowed money from someone else, all the ups and downs in his heart came to him. He was stunned for a moment, feeling a little angry. "What's so good about Josephine that you still borrow money to buy food for him?" To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 946. The more Xiaolin thought about it, the angrier he became, and couldn't help but ask. Lily looked at his face that turned pale and green, frowned and asked, "Weren't you like this before? Why can't you do what you can do and I can't do it? Could it be you? Are you jealous of me? Are you afraid that I will steal your brother from you?" Xiaolin was so choked that he couldn't speak. Lily pushed him down on the bed impatiently and went to find his wallet. When buying groceries, Xiaolin wanted to go out with Lily. Now that he was staying with Josephine, he always felt indescribably awkward, but Lily refused to follow him and only asked him to accompany his brother. What he said in the past was quite normal. I wonder if he had something up his sleeve, but it always sounded harsh to him. When Josephine saw Xiaolin like this, he felt more and more that something was not right, as if something was out of his control. He wanted to sit closer and ask Xiaolin for information, but the more he did this, the more Xiaolin felt the hair on his back, and there was something wrong with Josephine's eyes. The vegetables Lily bought at noon were all hot. Although she didn't know any medical skills, she had cooking skills and knew how to match some foods. At noon, she mainly cooked a large pot of twice-cooked pork, longan, fennel, and pepper, which can make the food hot. A large amount was put in, and after Lily mixed it, the meat was fragrant even before it came out of the pot. Lily also put some chili peppers in the dish to enhance the flavor. For people like Josephine who are very particular about eating and don't like large pieces of meat. He said that when he tasted the pot of braised pork from Beihuayaki, he couldn't help but add 2 bowls of rice and praised. Lily's cooking skills are no worse than those of 5-star hotels. Hearing his words, Xiaolin felt more and more uncomfortable. Xiaolin had never thought of this before. Only now did I realize that I had treated Josephine to dinner countless times. When I thought about it carefully, every time he said how rich he was, he either ate in 5-star hotels or ate at famous restaurants. But he never invited himself and Lily to have dinner in these places. Friends are also very particular about coming and going. Before, Xiaolin thought that Josephine was good at everything, but if he didn't think about it in this regard, now he felt a knot in his heart. It is inevitable that I will feel a little uncomfortable. Lily sneered in her heart. After this meal, Josephine would realize how powerful it was later. As long as he came a few more times, Lily had many ways to make him eat so hard that he couldn't pull it out. In the past, Josephine had taken so much advantage of the original owner, and he would always make him swallow it and spit it out. She was indifferent in her heart, but there was a smile on her face. He also took serving chopsticks to Josephine to hold the food. Brother Sifan, if you like it, then eat more. The more attentive she was, the more uncomfortable Zhao Lin felt in his heart, as if he was like an outsider, excluded from these two people. He couldn't bear to eat a meal, no matter how delicious the food was. But he also felt that it was a little hard to swallow. After finishing the meal, Zhao Lin was anxious to send Josephine away. Josephine hinted to him several times that he had something to say to him, but he didn't want to pay attention to it. After sending the person away, Zhao Lin finally couldn't bear the anger he had held back for a long time and vented it all out. Why are you so nice to Josephine? You have a mouthful of Brother Sifan, and you even borrowed money to buy meat to cook for him. Why haven't you been so nice to me before? Today Lily also brought vegetables to Josephine. You know, after eating for so long, she didn't even pick up a chopstick of meat for herself. I just heard her talking to Josephine. Zhao Lin thought of Lily's previous words about wanting to marry Josephine. It felt like swallowing a piece of yellow lotus in my heart. This matter was not about how much he loved Lily, but simply because the man's self-esteem couldn't stand such a situation. The more he thought about it, the more uncomfortable he felt, and his tone became a little aggressive when he spoke. Lily looked at him like this. When he woke up in the morning, his hair was uncombed and messy. Wearing black-rimmed glasses, a plaid short-sleeved shirt, shorts, and flip-flops, Fan Bei he didn't know what he liked about Zhao Lin in the past. Although in the long run, he was a good professional, but this person has no romantic sentiments. Although his salary card was handed over to her honestly, he didn't have much money in the card, but he still wanted to act like a boss at home. Sometimes he was stubborn and had a weird temper. He was extremely filial to his parents, and sometimes he didn't care about principal issues. As long as he was willing to compromise, he wouldn't even obey Fan Lily on some small matters. At this moment, she still wants to lose her temper with herself. She is not like the original owner who has to put up with him just because she likes him and sees that he is good at everything. Lily was collecting the bowl. The half pot of meat in the bowl had been eaten by several people, leaving only some leftovers. As soon as Zhao Lin finished speaking, her face darkened, she threw the bowl and started yelling loudly. What are you doing? Didn't you usually say that you should be nicer to Josephine? Didn't you say that he is your brother and you want me to be passionate about him? Now that I am nice to him, you have an opinion again. The yin is also you, and the yang is also you. Are you deliberately trying to find trouble? When Zhao Lin heard her loud voice, he immediately became a little angry. Let me tell you a few words, you are more cruel than anyone else. No matter how good you are to your friends, you should be measured. Now that we have no money, why do you still buy so much? If you are so meaty, you can't even eat enough for yourself, and you still care about others. He looked arrogant. In fact, his aura had been reduced a lot, and he was not as fierce as before. He was submissive in disguise. But when Lily saw him like this, not only did she not restrain herself, but her voice became louder. You also know that you can't care about others if they have enough to eat? What's the point? When you asked Josephine to buy lobsters and crabs before, why didn't you say this? You were still afraid that people would miss a bite. Now I'm going to buy some meat. You have a lot of opinions, why didn't you buy an air conditioner in advance to greet people? It's only been a few days, but now you have the nerve to talk to me. Zhao Linzi's cheeks turned red after being said. Just as Lily said, it was indeed him who asked Fan Bei to be nicer to Josephine before. I don't know what evil possessed him at that time. Fan Bei had some objections about this and the two had a big quarrel. At this time, Zhao Lin still felt vague when he thought about it. Some regrets. But he couldn't bring himself to apologize. Seeing Lily's cold face and not smiling at all, I'm just telling you, I didn't know before that we had no money. How can we buy meat when we have no money? Are you done? Didn't you eat the groceries after you bought them? What's more, Josephine is your friend, and you called him home before. Why are you making trouble now? If you don't want me to buy groceries, unless you yourself tell him not to come to the house again." After Lily finished speaking, she took a bowl and chopsticks back to the kitchen, leaving Xiaolin alone with chest pain. "If you don't want to buy it, I won't buy it. I ate it, and I will pay for the meat." "What to pay for?" "You have to pay the water and electricity bills soon. You invited Josephine to your home for many days this month and watched TV all night. I'm afraid you can't pay the water and electricity bills for less than 200 or 300 yuan this month. Your salary is not enough for you to spend on your own." "It's gone." When Xiaolin heard what she said, he hummed without thinking, "I have no money. I'll call home and ask my mother to borrow 10,000 yuan, can you borrow it?" Originally, he thought that the conflict between himself and Lily was caused by the money matter. If this matter was resolved, Lily would naturally not be so shady with him anymore. Xiaolin also felt that he had been very tolerant. After all, he had started working and his family had worked hard to support him for many years. He did not want to borrow money from his parents unless he had to. At this time, when he said that he wanted to borrow money from his parents, he felt a little bit in his heart. She was so angry that she felt like she was being forced. Unexpectedly, as soon as she said these words, Lily was not only not happy, but her face became even more ugly. "I just said there is a problem between you and Josephine, but you still refuse to admit it." Xiaolin was a little anxious after hearing this. "You are talking nonsense. We talked about the wedding gift before. I asked your mother to borrow 10,000 yuan, and as long as it was handed over to my mother, it would be transferred back to your mother's card after going through the procedures. But you didn't agree and told me, why don't you borrow money from your mother? This marriage can be concluded as long as it can be settled. Now that you have no money to treat Josephine to dinner, you are willing to borrow 10,000 from your mother. You also said that there is no relationship between you and Josephine. Relationship? Who can you deceive?" Lily's words at this moment left Xiaolin speechless. He opened his mouth wide and was speechless, looking like he was about to cry without tears. He really had no reason to ask his mother to borrow 10,000 yuan for Josephine today. For some reason, Xiaolin always felt a little uncomfortable when he saw Brother Sifin before. And Lily's attentiveness to him also made Xiaolin feel like he was holding his breath. He asked his mother to borrow money just to make Lily happy. He originally thought that after solving the financial problem, she would at least give him a good look. Yes, to his surprise, Lily ignored him at all and had no intention of listening to his explanation. She washed her hands and returned to the room, locking the door immediately. "Wife." Xiaolin stood by the door. He knocked twice and was about to explain. Unexpectedly, his cell phone rang in his pocket. When he saw the word Sifin written on it, he felt inexplicably he became a little disgusted. For the first time since he met Josephine, he didn't even want to answer Josephine's phone call. Josephine called to say that he had gone back to take a shower in the afternoon and had nothing to do. In the evening, there was a game between a team they both liked and he was going to come over and watch the game together. In the past, watching football games was Xiaolin's biggest hobby after work, but it was a pity that Fan Beihe was not willing to accompany him. After finding Josephine found out his character from his Weibo, followed his temper, and deliberately to please him, the two of them naturally got along very well. Xiaolin also always liked to watch games with him. One of them deliberately catered to him, and the other was kept in the dark. Naturally, he felt happy. But at this time, Xiaolinke and Lily had a quarrel because of Josephine. Especially when it came to money, Xiaolin suddenly felt a little bored when he heard that Josephine was coming over again. Second update before 8 o'clock. To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 947. Every time Josephine said he would come over, he would come empty-handed. He paid for the electricity to watch TV, bought the beer from Behi, and even the food to go with the wine had to be paid for by himself. This Josephine always said that he was a rich second generation. But like an iron rooster, he doesn't pay a dime, and he is a poor boy. What is there to deserve such a rich man to associate with him? At this stage, in addition to having a young and beautiful girlfriend, he even has no house or money in this coastal area. Xiaolin gritted his teeth when he thought of the scene when Josephine kept talking about Lily's good craftsmanship during lunch, and when Lily said that the person who gave her the betrothal gift was Josephine. "I'm sorry, Sophine, I still have some unfinished work. Let's look at it another day." It had been a few days since he once again refused Josephine's proposal to watch football. This time, he no longer felt a little guilty like when he refused Josephine before. Before Josephine could react, he directly then hung up the phone. In the room, Lily heard the movement outside and began to make calculations in her mind. Now Xiaolin has known Josephine in real life for nearly 3 months, and the original owner's mother had a car accident more than 2 months later, which means that she can interfere with Josephine's purpose within 2 months, and he broke up with Xiaolin and returned to his mother. In the plot, Fan Bei did not see her mother for the last time. The separation between mother and daughter has always been the biggest hatred in the heart of the original owner. In addition to venting her anger, Lily also had to take care of her mother for her in this mission. Naturally, this care is also important, including changing the fate of the original owner's mother who was hit by a car. Outside, Xiaolin didn't know what she was thinking, and was still leaning against the door to explain to her, "Lily, I really didn't mean what you thought. I shouldn't have been so mean-spirited before. I am willing to ask my mother to borrow 10,000 yuan as a betrothal gift. Now I also regret it. Give your husband a chance. I will definitely have less contact with him in the future. Can you give me a chance and open the door?" There was a hint of crying in his voice when he spoke, and Xiaolin was not a very evil person. He is just too stupid. Although in the plot, it is because of him that he provokes such a vicious wolf like Josephine, but in fact he is also one of the victims, so he ends up being played by a man and then abandoned. He was supposed to have a very ordinary and happy family. He and Fan Bei had feelings for each other, and they had been dating since they were freshmen. In 4 years, graduation has not separated the two. Although he sometimes has a bad temper after working, it is also because of the unsatisfactory work. Fan Bei has always understood this, so she follows him everywhere and listens to him now. Saying apologies outside the door. Lily looked cold. What's the point of telling her this now? The person who was supposed to hear his apology had already disappeared. Lily listened quietly to him talking about the sweet past events that happened between him and Fan Bei when they were in college. She could hear that Xiaolin really regretted it at this moment, and what he said was sincere. After a while, Lily responded, just think about it." If she could agree like this, Xiaolin, whose eyes were a little red outside the door, hurriedly agreed. The clear ringtone of the mobile phone rang, and Xiaolin sniffed. He originally wanted to ask Lily out for a stroll, but now he remembered what he had done for the betrothal gift. Plus the work pressure is too great. After I quarreled with Fan Bei, I haven't gone out with her yet. I always felt that it would be too expensive to go shopping with Fan Bei, and my girlfriend would feel guilty if she couldn't buy anything she liked. As time passed, he felt that his dignity as a man was damaged, and he began to dislike going shopping with her. He was always irritable and irritated whenever Fan Bei mentioned going out for a walk after getting to know Josephine, and Josephine's provocation. He became more and more annoyed by Fan Bei. At this time, Lily promised to give him a chance. Xiaolin felt a little guilty in his excitement. But just as he was about to open his mouth, he remembered that he didn't have any money. If he asked his mother to borrow money to go shopping, he was a little reluctant, so when the words came to his lips, he swallowed them back. The phone in his hand was still ringing. When he saw Josephine's name above, Xiaolin felt a little impatient, but after hesitating for a while, he picked up the phone. As soon as the other end of the phone was connected, Josephine spoke in a somewhat unpleasant tone. "Alan, what's the matter with you? It took you so long to answer the phone." His tone seemed to be questioning. Xiaolin suddenly felt unhappy and cleared his throat. "Sifin, I didn't have my phone with me just now. What do you find me for?" In the past, when Josephine called, Xiaolin would usually answer the phone immediately, but now he didn't answer until the phone rang until it was about to hang up. Josephine thought about the changes in Xiaolin in the past 2 days, and felt a sudden change in his heart. A bad feeling came to my mind. "Didn't we make an appointment to watch a football match together at night, Alan? We have always watched football matches together before, and you have never rejected me. Did I do something wrong that made you angry? What if?" "That's it, I will change it." Josephine went back to think about it after lunch. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was not quite right. Xiaolin had changed so much in the past 2 days. He had spent so much time on Xiaolin. After months of hard work, she naturally refused to let the fat on her lips slip away. If Xiaolin and Fan Bei get back together under his nose, all the efforts he made before will be in vain. Josephine thought of Xiaolin's unprincipled good guy character. When he apologized like this, no matter what happened, he would definitely think about how he felt a little guilty for being so cold to him before. What's more, his direct apology was more embarrassing than a woman's. His unreasonable troubles will naturally give Xiaolin the impression that men are more straightforward and simple than women. As long as he provokes her, no matter what Lily has done to win back Xiaolin's heart, Josephine will have the confidence to give Xiaolin back again. "Come back to yourself." Sure enough, as soon as he apologized, Xiaolin suddenly felt a little embarrassed. He thought that Josephine, as a rich second generation, did not have the temper of a rich second generation at all, and he had to apologize to an insignificant person like himself. Speaking of losing her temper with him, she was too petty. The matter had nothing to do with Josephine. The conflict with Lily was resolved, and thinking of Josephine's apology, Xiaolin acquiesced to his request to come over for dinner and watch the game again. After the two chatted for more than 10 minutes and hung up the phone, Xiaolin finally responded. "Come here," reach out and twist the doorknob of the bedroom door, wanting to discuss with Lily. "Honey, Sifin is coming over tonight. I know we don't have much money right now. Otherwise, forget it today. I'll tell him to stop coming here later." He was still blaming Lily for being too enthusiastic about Josephine. There was a quarrel uncontrollably, and now he asked Lily to buy groceries and cook. Xiaolin also felt a little embarrassed on his face, and his voice became quieter. He originally thought that Lily would take this opportunity to have a violent attack, but he didn't expect her. He only responded and stopped talking. Xiaolin breathed a sigh of relief. Although he wanted to go into the house, he pushed the door and found it was still locked. Lily obviously had not completely calmed down. Although she had some thoughts in her heart, she did not dare to beg again. Deeply afraid of making her angry, he retreated to the sofa in the living room and lay down. In the evening, Josephine, who was ordering dinner, came over. During the dinner, Josephine kept talking to Xiaolin, looking very energetic. Xiaolin listened absent-mindedly and looked towards Lily from time to time. Lily suddenly asked, "Brother Sifin, the salary in our store is not high now, and I can't learn anything. I studied accounting when I was in school. I heard that Alan said that your family is in the building materials business. I don't know if your family is short of manpower. How about can you introduce me to a job?" Josephine's original target was Xiaolin. He was not interested in women. He even just wanted to snatch Xiaolin away from Lily. Now when he heard that she was planning to make plans for his own family and find a job, when he found his home, there was a bit of contempt in his eyes. He was just playing with men for fun, and he had no real intentions. If Zhao Lin made this request, he would definitely agree without hesitation, because if Zhao Lin, after being played by him, if he dumped Zhao Lin, this kid would have no shame in staying in his shop anymore. If Zhao Lin lost both his life and his job, he would naturally not care, but it was not okay for Lily to make this request. After all, if she and Zhao Lin were really messed up by him, she would have no relatives in Binhai. In the past few months, they had been squeezed out by him. They often came over to eat, which would invisibly aggravate the two of them. Burden, these two people are already poor. When Fan Bei has no money, he will definitely rely on me and refuse to leave. By then, he will finish Zhao Linyi. If Fan Bei insists on staying in his shop and refuses to leave, there will be trouble. It's troublesome to get up. It's easy to ask God but hard to send him away. A man like him, who has been surrounded by flowers and grass without a leaf touching his body, would never do such a thing. He didn't expect Lily to be so shameless, and he even asked about working in his father's shop without thinking of his own abilities. He originally wanted to treat it as a discussion about football with Zhao Lin, and pretended not to hear Lily's question, but he didn't expect that after repeating it again, Josephine frowned. I never care about my father's business. This was considered a tactful rejection. Josephine felt that people with normal IQs could generally understand the meaning of his words, because Zhao Lin's cheeks were already flushed, and Josephine could see that cute look. A fire ignited in Sophine's body, and he almost wanted to push him down on the dining table and restrain him in his arms. Zhao Lin couldn't help but hold up his glasses several times, and frowned and glanced at Lily several times. He winked at her to indicate that he was obviously feeling a little embarrassed. Josephine curled up the corners of his mouth coldly. He was just playing. Man, I didn't expect what I would have to pay in this game. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 948. Of course I know, Brother Sophon, you don't care about your father's business. After Lily said this, she paused deliberately, but ask me, I really don't want to work here anymore, the major I studied has nothing to do with it. The relationship and salary are too low. If there is a good opportunity, of course I hope to find a better one. Zhao Lin and I don't know anyone in Binhai, the only one we know is Brother Sophon. When Zhao Lin heard this, he felt embarrassed, but also vaguely hopeful. He has always regarded Josephine as his best friend and brother in Binhai. Although he knew that his family was rich, he had never asked him for anything. In the past, he had always tried his best to treat him. Now Lily asked Josephine to be honest. Zhao Lin felt a little embarrassed for Sophon to help. He felt that Lily's request seemed like a violation of his brotherhood. However, the situation between the two of them was difficult now. If Josephine was really willing to help, it could be improved. In the case of the two of them, he would be more grateful to Josephine, but Zhao Lin was embarrassed to speak in this way. He was a little angry when Lily spoke, but because Josephine was there, he was embarrassed to say more. But now that Lily has finished speaking, Zhao Lin still hoped that Josephine would agree. It has been more than half a year since the two of them came to Binhai to develop together after graduation, but things are not going well. Fan Bei majored in accounting, but she didn't know if it was because the school was not in the local area and there was no recommendation from the tutor. She wanted to find the job is difficult. She hasn't got her diploma yet, and some really big companies don't want her. She looked for a job for more than 10 days more than half a year ago but couldn't find it. In the end, she ran out of money and there was really no other way. It was only because of her beautiful appearance that she found this job selling jewelry. Although they have income for the time being, both of them know that this is not a long-term solution. Fan Bei has always wanted to wait until he gets his diploma before finding a job in a relevant field. They both look forward to life getting better. When Lily opened her mouth, Josephine's tactful refusal made Xiaolin a little disappointed. At the same time, seeing that Lily didn't shut up, he felt a little hopeful. Maybe there is no way. I don't have to worry about my father's business, let alone wanting a good job as soon as I come here. How can there be such a good reason? The world's richest man even worked part-time at the beginning. Josephine held up 2 chopsticks. Meat, without raising his head, he lowered his eyelids and dropped his eyes to the dishes on the table, his eyes full of sarcastic smiles. Just give in to a stupid vase like Lily and look stupid. He also wanted to rely on his own family connections to do business with these 2 poor fools. He lowered his dignity to approach them for Xiaolin lay. He thought he really regarded these 2 people as friends, but he was really rude to him. He even wanted to work at his house. Josephine was tired of mentioning all the other things. I felt more and more disgusted with women, chewed hard on my mouth, and felt disgusted in my heart. This time he did not refuse as politely as before, but directly said that he had no choice. Lily had known Josephine's purpose and understood that he did not want to have anything to do with Josephine's business. After all, Josephine hoped that he could leave after toying with Xiaolin. Naturally, he would not be left in such a trouble. As soon as he finished speaking, the look of hope on Xiaolin's face suddenly solidified. His expression became embarrassed and a little angry. Staring at Lily bitterly, she hated Lily for deliberately bringing up this matter to make herself unable to step down, and she also hated Josephine for not giving him any face. Why is there no way? Brother Sifin, can't you ask for me? We are having a very difficult time now. No, I really have no choice. Before Lily could finish speaking, Josephine directly refused. This meal was actually quite delicious, but it was a pity that Lily's stalking behavior reminded him of many women who were pestering him because of his appearance and family background, thinking that he could fly up a branch and become a phoenix and marry the rich 2nd generation. Josephine put down his chopsticks. What kind of accountant should my dad hire for his business? He has already hired one a long time ago. Doesn't it mean that he doesn't need an accountant that he is comfortable with and hires an accountant like you who doesn't know anything? And he still has to pay a high price to hire one? Miss Fan, I think what you are thinking about now is not how to make a lot of money, but how to be down to earth. You haven't learned to crawl yet, so you still want to learn to run. Josephine didn't like women, and he treated Lily as if he were a love rival. Before, he tried his best to show a gentle, generous, and straightforward image in front of Fan Bei. That was because he had an ulterior motive, and he was patient and good when he started playing the game, and the prey was able to take the bait smoothly. But it's different now. It's obvious that Xiaolin is much colder to him now. He took the initiative to call him if he wanted to come over today. Only then did Xiaolin reluctantly agree. The game was out of his control. This already made Josephine feel faintly uneasy. Lily also, she pestered him desperately to get a job, and even came up with the idea of his family. This made Josephine feel particularly bored. Naturally, his voice became much colder, and his voice gradually became a little bit harsh, interrupting Lily's words. He raised his eyebrows and sneered. So I can't promise you, and as I said, I can't be the master of my father's company. The atmosphere suddenly became awkward. Xiaolin's cheeks were burning at the moment. He didn't expect that things would progress to such a point. He hated Lily for raising issues regardless of the occasion, and suggested to Josephine that the 2 of them lived in poverty. Fact, and felt very disappointed by Josephine's blunt rejection. He was actually very afraid that Josephine would mistakenly think that he wanted to curry favor with him, so he became friends with him. Seeing Josephine's face turn cold, Xiaolin, my heart felt like a cat was scratching me, and I felt terribly uncomfortable. Okay. It's not over yet. Let's eat. What else can we say? Do you want to eat? Xiaolin became angry and saw that the atmosphere in the room was getting weird. He slapped the chopsticks in his hand heavily. On the table, he stared at Lily and yelled at Lily. Lily raised her head and stared at Xiaolin coldly, making Xiaolin feel weak inexplicably. Next to him, Josephine saw that the two were about to quarrel. He couldn't help but feel overjoyed and sighed deliberately. Forget it, Aylin, Miss Fan didn't mean it. She may have just joined the society and she just doesn't understand some things. She can teach her better in the future. Women are like this. You have to be more patient. Don't argue. Don't argue. Eat, don't be hungry. He deliberately showed his gentle and considerate side, trying to find a step for Xiaolin to climb down. It was obviously him who turned against him first, but now he is the one who pretends to be nice. Xiaolin was relieved. In fact, he was a little creeped out by Lily. After the words he just vented were spoken, Xiaolin remembered that Lily was different from before. She might not tolerate his temper, but the atmosphere at that time was too embarrassing. He was really angry that Lily deliberately made everyone embarrassed, so he vented his anger in a moment of excitement. But when he finished venting, Lily regretted it when he saw it. Fortunately, Josephine was considerate and sensible, and immediately he gave him a step down, and he snorted coldly, then grabbed the chopsticks again. Siphon, eat the food and ignore her. She is just joking with you. What can we eat? Lily asked coldly, pushing away the chair and standing up. Josephine, are you really not willing to do this for me? Xiaolin was still embarrassed at this moment. When she heard that Lily was still asking Josephine this question, he had obviously said that he was not willing to help, so she still wanted to drag him to ask because she felt that the slap on the left side of his face was not painful enough. He wanted to turn his right cheek towards me and ask for a slap in the face. Xiaolin was so angry that he was trembling all over. His face was livid and he stood up angrily. How many times should I say this? I told you not to mention it again during dinner. You have no money. Are you ready? Don't you have money to eat? Are you so poor that you have to sleep under a bridge? Josephine saw the tension between the two of them, and there was a flash of excitement in his eyes. He reached out to pull Xiaolin. Okay, Alin, don't be angry, talk nicely, women should be coaxed slowly, and be more patient. Josephine, are you sick? After Lily finished speaking, she reached out and picked up the bowls and chopsticks. When Josephine heard this, a bit of gloom flashed in his eyes. He still held the chopsticks in his hand, and Lily stepped forward. He snatched the chopsticks from his hand, and without noticing, he let Lily pull them away. Just when he was a little embarrassed, he saw Lily carrying all the dishes to the kitchen. Xiaolin, you worthless man. I have the nerve to tell you that you are rich and have food to eat. Although you are not sleeping in a bridge, you are almost there. A man who can't even pay the rent in full has the nerve to whisper to me, what's wrong with me looking for a job? Isn't it just for this? I'm raising a loser like you. How dare I eat it? She suddenly turned against her, leaving Josephine stunned. What he is good at is playing tricks and tricks. He likes to plan every step before doing things and trick others step by step. This is the first time he has encountered someone like Lily who suddenly turned against him. Josephine also felt a little confused. He froze in place. The bowl of rice in front of him was only half eaten. Lily came out of the kitchen, picked up his bowl, and threw the bowl and rice into the trash can. I call you brother, you really put on airs and taught Xiaolin how to coax a woman? I would like to ask you how to coax a man. What is your purpose in coaxing other people's boyfriends into a circle? What are you talking about? I want to learn to run even before I can crawl. I'm going to let you learn now. What does it mean to get out? After Lily finished speaking, she reached out and slapped the table hard, pointed at Josephine's face and started to curse, shameless, you eat and drink at my house, and you dare to tell me the truth? Your dad is so capable and good at business, why didn't he teach you the principles of life? Calculate how much you have eaten at my house in the past few months. Have a meal? You shameless thing, you don't pay a penny for the meal, the TV is on as soon as it comes, and you are greeted with good wine and meat. It's not the Qingming festival. What kind of blessing do you enjoy? Forget it if you don't find a job for me, just give me the money you spent on food, otherwise I'll go to your dad's store every day during my break and ask him for money. Bah! Shameless thing. To be continued, Carrot. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 949. In fact, Lily didn't know where Josephine's father's store was. Although Josephine briefly talked about the situation at home, he didn't go into details. But when Lily threatened, Xiaolin's face turned pale and he was a little panicked. After taking a look at Josephine, I felt that things seemed to be getting more and more serious, but I didn't know how to deal with it. Both of them were a little confused by Lily's scolding. Josephine's face was livid, his fists clenched and his teeth were clenched. He was wearing a silver gray silk shirt, and his chest was rising and falling due to hard breathing. It was tightened, revealing the beautiful muscle shape, his eyes were full of gloom, and he almost wanted to punch Lily in the face. To be honest, Josephine has never been scolded like this since he was a child. Although he wanted to break Xiaolin so that he could break up with Fan Beihe and get Xiaolin's body, for this purpose he interacted with Xiaolin. They are close brothers, but in fact, he looks down on Xiaolin and Fan Beihe in his heart. After all, their birth status and status are incomparable to him. To just be good friends regardless of their status and origins is to deceive a fool like Xiaolin. Josephine is the rich second generation of Binhai, rich and status, and a local. Xiaolin and Xiaolin are nothing, they are just two poor outsiders. He only regards the process of conquering Xiaolin as a game. Lily here, she actually dared to point at his nose and curse. It feels really great to think about two little people who are regarded as prey by themselves, serving him as if they are gods. They don't know that he opens his mouth wide and wants to swallow Xiaolin, but they are courting him like fools. In fact, he is not coveting the Zhao family's delicacies, and he is not short of money for food, which is why he is unwilling to spend a penny on Xiaolin. It's just because he wanted to show off his abilities. He broke up a couple without spending a penny and got a man. In the process, the victim had to be grateful to him. I will also be able to brag to others in the future. But thinking this way, Josephine was still angry beyond words when he was really pointed at and scolded by Lily. "What did you say?" he asked coldly, and Xiaolin saw that the situation was not good. He hurriedly stretched out his hand to pull him. "Siphon, please calm down, Fan Beihe is not sensible, don't argue with her, we two brothers are going out to eat, I'll treat you." "Humph," Lily sneered when she heard this, "how much money can you spare to treat me? You can't even recharge your bus card for work on Monday. Even if your face is swollen, it won't matter. Like a fat man. You want to treat me? You're laughing so hard. You surnamed Joe are shameless. You are pretending to be a rich man. I have never seen a rich man running into other people's houses all day long to eat and drink. Is there gold here? You are reluctant to leave all day long. Yes, you look like a sissy. Do you think you are a brave man who can only eat but not eat? Today I will put my words here. Immediately take out the money for electricity, water, and house food in the past few months, otherwise you have to admit that your parents died early, and you also lived a short life. I will do my best this meal, practice it for you, and send you on your way." How many people in ancient times cut off their heads and didn't give them a full meal before they died? They all said they wouldn't starve to death. As soon as Lily said these words, not only Xiaolin was upset, but Josephine was even more angry. He really didn't expect that this poor woman would dare to ask him for a job. He fell out when he didn't ask for it. At this moment, Josephine's impression of Lily had hit rock bottom. He was not a serious good person to begin with, otherwise he would not have done anything to cheat her boyfriend. He did not have the so-called gentlemanly demeanor. The demeanor he showed before was purely fake, and he didn't just look down on Lily and the two. He doesn't even like women. Even if he is patient, he is definitely not towards women. So as soon as Lily said this, he kicked the chair away without thinking, clenched his fists and walked towards Lily, reaching out to pull Lily's clothes. The chair was kicked aside by him and hit the armrest of the wooden sofa. There was a clang sound. Josephine's appearance frightened Xiaolin beside him and was a little stunned. He didn't know how he was fine just now, but how could he change in the blink of an eye? In such a situation, Xiaolin stood there stupidly in desperation, unable to recover at all. He saw Josephine's hand grabbing Lily's chest, but Lily slapped it away. When the palm slapped the back of Josephine's hand, it made a clear and loud sound. Josephine obviously did not expect this change, and reached out again to try. He went to pull her hair, but the next moment his hand was grabbed by Lily. Lily's lower body leaned towards his body. Taking advantage of her smaller figure than Josephine, she inserted one leg between Josephine's legs. With her own fighting experience, Lily could quickly feel that Josephine must have practiced boxing for several years. His punches were quite powerful and not showy. It can be seen that he had indeed worked hard to build his figure, but although his upper body had no strength, but his lower body seemed extremely weak. When he punched just now, he punched with too much force, and his legs were even a little unsteady. Lily followed his strength and turned her head away and reached out to grab his wrist, without waiting for him to react. He came over, hooked his lower leg and pushed hard. Josephine was already swaying because he punched too fast and too hard. Now he was locked. With the world spinning, he fell straight to the floor. Go down. This one-bedroom, one-living house was too small, and the dining table was right next to the sofa. His head hit the armrest of the sofa with a thud, and he couldn't feel any pain for a moment. He could only feel stars popping up in front of his eyes. After a while, before Josephine could react, Lily had already stood up, raised her leg with all her strength, and kicked him hard between his legs. With a bang sound, Josephine felt a sharp pain in his lower body. Severe pain came, and cold sweat broke out all over his body. His whole body was in a state of panic, and his body curled up like cooked shrimp. Trash. Cheating for food and drink. After being bitten by someone, you become so angry that you want to hit someone. After Lily finished speaking, she curled up her lips and without thinking, she squatted next to Josephine, grabbed his hair, and banged him on the ground. It fell down, and there were several dong 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 sounds, which made Josephine unable to even shout. He could no longer feel the pain in his head. It was as if the headache in his mind was about to disperse. He continued *, he even forgot to shout *. Lily bumped into him several times, and then let go of his hand. Josephine had collapsed on the ground like a dead dog, and his body shrank into a ball. After a long time, in addition to the pain in his lower body, he felt a dull pain in his head. Only then did he realize it. He opened his eyes, his pupils were full of bloodshot eyes, and his mouth started to wet. You. As soon as his voice sounded, the stunned Xiaolin seemed to have just woken up and gasped. Just as he was about to speak, Lily glared at him. What are you doing? When you see someone trying to hit your girlfriend, you can still stand aside. Xiaolin, you are such a useless wimp. Call his dad right away and ask him to pick him up. Xiaolin was already stunned by Lily's actions. Hearing Lily's words, he subconsciously reached out to touch the phone. He never thought that his girlfriend would be so terrible when she suddenly got angry. He was completely stunned. He touched the phone and realized that he didn't know the phone number of Josephine's parents, nor where his home was. Although he claimed that he was in the building materials business, It was only then that Xiaolin discovered that he had no interest in Josephine. Not knowing anything at all, he licked his lips that were dry due to nervousness. "Honey, I don't know his parents' phone number." "Aren't you friends? Didn't he tell you? You even told him clearly what color you wear every day, right? You still don't know his parents' phone number? Since you don't know the phone number, you just tell him send him home. I don't want to see this disgusting person telling me any big things now, he's just a liar." Lily snorted coldly, and Xiaolin was speechless by her scolding. After a long while, he replied, "I don't know where his home is." It was only then that Xiaolin began to realize the seriousness of the problem. What Lily said was indeed not pleasant, but because of what she said in anger, Xiaolin thought about it carefully and realized that something was indeed wrong as she said. Josephine kept saying that he was the second generation of rich people, but he was the one who said everything. He said that he was a rich man, but why did rich people only eat and drink at his place, and why did he never invite the two of them out? Have a meal? He said that his family was in the building materials business and that he regarded himself as a good friend. Just like Lily said, Josephine had found out many of his basic information. He seemed to know everything. To put it strangely, he is like a roundworm in his stomach. He knows exactly what he thinks, what he likes and what he doesn't like. He likes a certain football team, and he agrees with him. Although the real situation is not that he knows exactly what color clothes he wears every day, but now that he thinks about it, he does seem to remember what kind of clothes, pants, and leather shoes he has. Because Xiaolin remembered that one time, Josephine accidentally said to him and asked him why he didn't wear that pink shirt with light beige nylon pants. At that time, Xiaolin didn't take it seriously. He just thought that Josephine had better taste than him and accidentally noticed that he was poorly dressed to improve his own. Until then, he started to feel that something was wrong all over his body and he had goosebumps on his back. They all got up, and the way Josephine looked at him and the words he said when dealing with him began to appear in Xiaolin's mind. It was not that he suspected that Josephine had taken a fancy to him. Xiaolin had never thought that something could happen between men. He just suspected that he might have met a liar. Josephine had planned so much and worked hard to get close to him. What was he trying to deceive? He is a college student who has just graduated and started working. He has no money and no power. Even if he wants to cheat, he can't come up with much money at all. To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 950. You don't know anything, just a name, and you still have the nerve to call someone brother and bring him home? Calculate for yourself how much money he has spent on us in the past few months. You still want to buy an air conditioner for him? Xiaolin, are you having a brain problem? Lily pulled up a chair and sat down. Seeing that Xiaolin's face turned blue and white, Xiaolin must have had some doubts at this moment. It would be better for him to find out slowly by himself. It's better to tell him the truth directly. Xiaolin is a man who wants to save face. Although his character is honest, his temper is really weird. Whatever he believes in his heart, even if it is false, he will believe it as true. If he doesn't believe it, even if it is the truth, others will see through it. He didn't believe the words either. Get him out. I don't want to see this guy at home anymore. I don't care if you go out with him, but if you want to take him home, it's best not to let him mess with me again. You have to pay half more for the rent. The water and electricity bills are separate. Xiaolin, we should calm down and calm down. For the sake of our past relationship, I will pay the water and electricity bills for you this month, but next month's rent, water and electricity bills, I will clear it up with you. After Lily finished speaking, She poured all the food on the table into the trash can, then took a change of clothes and went into the bathroom. When she came out, Xiaolin and Josephine on the ground were nowhere to be found. When she was practicing physical skills in her room at night, Xiaolin was walking around in the living room outside. He walked to the door several times but did not dare to knock on the door. Obviously today he was frightened by Lily. Lily could hear clearly. He tentatively came over in the middle of the night and asked, "Lily, are you asleep?" He paused for a long time. Seeing that Lily in the room was silent, he didn't know if she was asleep. He became more courageous. "I don't know, Josephine, he is like this. I am not trying to hurt you today, I just don't want everyone to be embarrassed. After all, he is my friend. He is just here for a meal. I don't to think that you would be so angry." At this moment, Xiaolin thought Lily and Josephine were falling out. It was really because of the few meal money that he was too confused, had no opinion, and had a bad temper. Lily ignored him and was doing her physical training. Xiaolin looked at her and said nothing. "It's just that sometimes Sifan is right, men also need some face. He has already said that he doesn't want to help you find a job, why do you still chase him and ask? If he refuses, you won't get a job and everyone will be in trouble." He became embarrassed. "Today you threw him to the ground and beat him like that. What if Sifan calls the police to arrest us? You are really too reckless." Xiaolin initially said that he had no money because Lily feeling a little guilty, "I just talked." Thinking about tonight's situation, it becomes more and more popular. We are not Binhai locals, and we have nothing to rely on. If we cause trouble, how will we solve it? We will lose our jobs. Lily laughed when she heard this. "If he has the ability, he will sue. I also said that he is a pyramid schemer." What he said seemed to be true. He is still a rich second generation. How much money does his family have? How much is it? I have never seen a rich person make friends with a poor person. He even goes to his house to eat and drink for free. His family is so rich, have you ever eaten a meal from him or received a gift from him? Don't talk about spending his money. He hasn't even bought you a bottle of soda, so he's not a brother or friend. Get away, it's upsetting to hear it." Xiaolin's face turned red from being scolded outside the door. After a while, he snorted, "Who cares whether others have money or not when making friends? I don't need that bottle of soda. Why can't poor people make friends with rich people? You only see money in your eyes, so you think everyone in the world is just like you. Even if he is a pyramid scheme, why am I willing to be fooled? You don't need to take care of my affairs, my friend. I don't want you to worry about it." Xiaolin originally wanted to come to Lily to apologize, but he didn't expect Lily to admit her mistake now. He was just afraid that the two of them would get into trouble, so he wanted to persuade Lily not to do this next time. Impulsive, it was her fault from the beginning. If the police came to the door, he had only joined the company not long ago, and it would be bad to cause trouble. He was worried that the job would be gone. When he just sent Josephine out, he kept shouting. Xiaolin was worried about calling the police for a long time. He came back and wanted to teach Lily a lesson, but he didn't expect that she would hit someone and not say anything about it. She had no intention of repenting at all, and her words were so unpleasant. Xiaolin felt a fire in his heart. Rose up. You beat someone up this time. If Josephine calls the police, it has nothing to do with me. I never thought about having anything to do with you. I don't need you to take care of it. Josephine made the first move and was knocked to the ground by me. He deserved the humiliation he brought upon himself. Since you think he is good, just live with him. Go, why are you crowding with me? You regard money as dirt and are so noble. You grew up without spending money, just eating air. Stop nagging me so much, brother, it's really funny. Beihi's words made Xiaolin feel embarrassed and angry. Somehow, Since the last quarrel about the air conditioner, Fan Bei had become sharp-tongued. He could never win against her in any quarrel. Cold War it didn't have the same effect on her as before. Now that she told him to get out, Zhaolin paused for a long time before slamming the door. I paid half of the rent for this house, why do you always tell me to get out? If you want to get out, you get out. If you want me to get out, you can just give me half of the rent I paid. You don't need to tell me. I packed up my things and left immediately. It's as if everyone is looking for a shabby house like yours. Zhaolin couldn't give half of it at the moment. With rent money and nothing in his bag, he naturally had no confidence to speak. Hearing Lily say this, he was speechless. In the past, every time the two of them quarreled, he always told Fan Bei to get out, but now the situation seemed to be the other way around. Lily told him to get out when she opened her mouth or shut up. Zhaolin originally wanted to have a good talk with Lily tonight, saying at this point, the two naturally broke up on bad terms. When Lily woke up the next day, Zhaolin was no longer in the room. He came back after 10 o'clock at night. The two had a fight last night. He didn't say why he came back so late, and Lily didn't ask. The two started like this. After the Cold War, every day when Lily went to work, Zhaolin would cook the food and put it in the refrigerator to eat, but they didn't talk to each other on weekdays. Lily has been cooking most of the time recently, which can easily cause gastrointestinal irritation. In about half a month, she has seen enemas and other medicines on the cabinet in the bathroom that can help improve constipation problems. A month later, Zhaolin spent more and more time squatting on the toilet at home. Sometimes he would not come out for more than an hour after entering the toilet. Occasionally, he would say a word to Lily, and the smell in his mouth would make people frown, and his face would be filled with tears. Acne began to appear gradually, and I felt depressed more often every day. Until one day later, when Lily came home from get off work, she found that the closet at home was mostly empty. Zhaolin moved some of his clothes and other items away without saying a word to Lily. He was unfamiliar with Binhai. He had nowhere to go except Josephine's house. The two had been in a Cold War for almost 2 months. Perhaps in order to regain Zhaolin's trust, Josephine had no choice but to take Zhaolin back. At home, and in order to get Zhaolin's gratitude, he took him to his home. In order to prove her guess, Lily deliberately called Zhaolin's mobile phone. She hadn't taken the initiative to call Zhaolin for a long time. The phone rang for a long time, but he didn't answer it until he was about to hang up automatically. When he picked up the answer, his voice was a little cold. "Why are you still calling?" Zhaolin was still remembering that Lily told him to get out when he had a fight with Lily 2 months ago. In the past 2 months, he had thought that Lily would apologize to him. He could give Lily another chance and start over with her, but she didn't cherish this opportunity. Instead, she ignored him during the past 2 months. When he started to have nowhere to go, Zhaolin naturally had no choice but to endure. Pretending to be a grandson, now that he had obviously found a place to live, his tone became much colder. When Lily asked where he was, he sneered. "I am here with Sifin. Now as you wish, I have left. I have had enough of being with you these past few years. You are stingy and selfish. All you can see in your eyes and heart is money. Sifin has been here for more than a month. I was injured by you before. For my sake, he has decided not to pursue it with you anymore. Fan Lily, the two of us are really not suitable for each other, so we..." He originally wanted to say break up, but when Lily heard that he was indeed at Josephine's place, she confirmed her suspicion and didn't want to listen to him anymore, so she directly disconnected the phone. This afternoon when he was at work, Josephine called Zhaolin. Based on his heart, it was not the first time that Josephine had found his favorite target, broke up a couple and attacked the man. He doesn't have many chances to take action, because there are few people who can be favored by him, but those who are favored by him almost never escape. This time, in terms of breaking up Xiaolin and Fan Beihe, it was a shame for Josephine to lose his hand and was beaten before when Lily asked him to introduce a job but failed. After he returned home, the more he thought about it, the more he couldn't swallow this breath. Although he had not revealed any real information about himself except his name to anyone in the previous games, and even his mobile phone number was set up in order to deceive these people. But this time it's different. The game has progressed to this day. It would be a pity to give up. He has been playing for more than 3 months, just like finishing the game. He has been preparing for such a long time, so there is no reason to give up at this time. In addition, he really couldn't find any fun recently, and he didn't have any new targets. Besides, Josephine had never suffered such a big loss at the hands of anyone, especially at the hands of a woman. The only way to get Xiaolin out of Fan Beihe's hands was to only by grabbing it can you get rid of the evil spirit in your heart. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 951. But Xiaolin obviously had doubts about him because of what Lily said, and he had ignored Xiaolin for more than a month. If he wanted Xiaolin to believe him now, he had to show some sincerity. Therefore, after much deliberation, Josephine called Xiaolin. When Xiaolin got off work in the afternoon, he waited at the door of Xiaolin's company and took Xiaolin back to the house where he now lives alone in Binhai. With Josephine's sharp tongue, he quickly explained the reason why he had not contacted Xiaolin during this period, saying that he was just afraid that his girlfriend would be tough and he would cause him to be beaten. He knows Xiaolin's character, and he is the most face-friendly person. If he says that he was beaten by his girlfriend, he will definitely feel extremely ashamed, will definitely refute and dare not admit it, and will only become more and more resentful towards Lily. He will not hold any grudge against himself. Regarding the fact that you had not contacted him, Josephine also said that the reason why he did not take Xiaolin home or invite him to dinner before was because he thought that friends did not need to worry about money, and was afraid that he would think that he always said these things in front of Xiaolin. It was just to show off his wealth. He said it in a serious way, as if it was true. But Xiaolin, a fool, believed it. He felt that he had misunderstood his real friend, and almost became suspicious of him because of the woman's instigation. In addition, Josephine had another Ruoyosawa compared Lily's fierceness with his own, and said that Lily was angry that time because he didn't give Xiaolin face. Xiaolin was so angry that Josephine pretended to be magnanimous. If it had been anyone else, I would have sued someone if I got beaten that time. But after all, Miss Fan is your girlfriend, and I don't want to implicate you. Your affairs in Binhai just started. In order to avoid finding you, it's troublesome, so let's forget about it. Alin, tell Miss Zhao. Let her not worry. These words made Xiaolin feel moved and grateful at the same time. He had also accumulated a lot of bitterness in his heart in the past 2 months. I have long wanted to find someone to talk to, but I have never found the opportunity. Lily had been in a cold war with him for more than a month, and the rent, water, and electricity bills were half of each person's. He began to realize how difficult it was to spend the more than 1,000 yuan. Fortunately, Lily also confiscated his food expenses, otherwise he would not be able to spend it. I'm having a hard time. I seem to have some unspeakable health problems recently, and my relationship with my colleagues is not good. Josephine's appearance was like a trash can, and Xiaolin immediately confided in him and told him that he wanted to break up with Lily. Josephine said so much, and this was the purpose. When he heard Xiaolin take the initiative to say this, he thought about how he had been playing the game for more than 5 months this time, but because of Lily, he made a fuss. He already felt that he no longer wanted to play anymore. It would be better to cut the knot quickly with a knife. He could deceive Xiaolin's body earlier, let him fall into his arms earlier, and cut off the relationship with these 2 fools earlier, so he immediately encouraged. After Xiaolin broke up, Xiaolin expressed his worries. When he was unfamiliar with Binhai and had no place to live, Josephine said without hesitation that Xiaolin could live here temporarily and the rent could wait until his job was stable. If you have money, give it. Once there are no more worries. Josephine also said that there is no fragrant grass anywhere in the world. Thinking about Lily's recent indifference to him, Xiaolin's belief was naturally strengthened. Before Lily got off work, Josephine drove him back home. He took all his clothes and other belongings away until Lily called and asked where he was. Xiaolin felt a sense of elation in his heart, but it was a pity that Lily hung up the phone on him before he could finish his words about breaking up. Xiaolin's hung was a little angry. Josephine had already put his hand on his shoulder. His body was a little stiff. Although he was not used to such close contact with men, Xiaolin remembered his previous misunderstanding of Josephine and almost urgent believed what Lily said, thinking that he was pretending to be a rich second generation to deceive her. She had complained about him, and even hated him for refusing to help her. Now he not only helped her, but was also willing to let her live in at home. Xiaolin also felt a little guilty. He thought that Josephine's actions might not have any other meaning at all, and that he might just be thinking wrongly. Therefore, he suppressed the feeling of goosebumps all over his body and allowed Josephine to use his hands. It hit him. As soon as Josephine put his hand on her, he never left her again. As if he didn't realize that he was half hugging Xiaolin, he put one hand on Xiaolin's shoulder, and took the remote control with the other to turn on the TV. There was a football match playing on the TV, but at this moment Xiaolin felt that Josephine next to him seemed to be sitting a little too close, and he instinctively felt that something was wrong. At this time, the sound of the TV could no longer reach his ears, and he suddenly remembered what Lily had told him before, asking him to marry Josephine. When he, a grown man, heard this, he was naturally furious. How could two men marry back and forth? He definitely wanted to marry a woman and keep a child for the Zhao family. No matter how good the relationship between Josephine and him was, he only regarded Josephine as a buddy and a brother in his heart. He had never thought of any other meaning. This time he entered Josephine's house simply because the two were brothers and he was grateful for Josephine's help. But at this time, Josephine's behavior made Xiaolin feel that something was not right. His attention could no longer be focused on the TV. It was as if there was a snake coiled around his shoulders. His attention always fell unconsciously. When it came to Josephine, his expression became a little stiff, and he gradually regretted that he had impulsively moved out of the house. Josephine naturally felt the stiffness of Xiaolin's body. Logically speaking, he actually dislikes playing with this kind of vigilant and reluctant man. He likes prey to voluntarily enter his net and lie under him willingly, rather than like Xiaolin at this moment, who seems to be just for the sake of prey. For some reason, he was forced to endure it. Thinking that he had brought Xiaolin home and still had such an ending, Josephine felt a little angry for no reason. In the next period of time, he will provide Xiaolin with food, provide Xiaolin with housing, and provide him with all the conveniences in life. If he pays for such a result, in exchange for him not being willing to fall in love with women from falling in love with him, then all of this it just doesn't make sense. If he really had to spend money, he might as well spend it to find a more handsome man. Why bother looking for Xiaolin? We haven't seen him for a while, and Xiaolin has really changed a lot. Although he was dressed in a vulgar way before, he was still younger. In addition, he was thin and had just left campus not long ago. His personality was still honest, so he looked like a rabbit. Facing himself sometimes he was timid and a little cautious to please, but unlike now, after more than a month, he still looked as thin and honest as before, but he had many acnes on his face and his face was covered with oil. This made him look a little oily, which was off-putting at first glance. But he had paid so much, and if he stopped now, Josephine would never allow it. Xiao Lindu has moved into his home, and the first to get the moon is closer to the water and the terrace. Even if he is no longer as delicious as before, he has to sleep with him no matter what. It's just that Josephine just wanted to attack Xiaolin again, but seeing his nervous and reluctant look, and seeing that he looked almost disfigured now, he lost a little of his thoughts. He began to reflect on whether he had not been close to Xiaolin for more than a month, so that he was very unfamiliar with him now. He thought about it, even if he wanted to take Xiaolin into his mouth, he had to be slow. Take your time and get him to like you again and be willing to get close to you. He couldn't eat the hot tofu in a hurry, and the twisted melon wasn't sweet. After thinking about it, Josephine suppressed the boredom in his heart, pulled his arm back, and took the remote control to turn off the TV. Aaron, you just moved here, so you may be a little unaccustomed to it. You moved here today, so you should be tired. Get some sleep first. I'll take you out to play tomorrow, so I can give you a break from the wind and dust. A moment ago, Xiaolin was worried about how to get Josephine to take back the hand on his body. At this time, Josephine really stopped his hand. Xiaolin breathed a sigh of relief and felt a little grateful after hearing Josephine's words. He hurriedly nodding, Josephine pointed out where he wanted to sleep and where the toilet was at home, and then went back to his room to change clothes and prepare to go out to play. Lily, who hung up the phone at this moment, laughed while holding the phone when she learned that Xiaolin had moved to Josephine's home. She prepared a lot of gifts for Josephine. Doesn't he like men? She would send a man to him, but Xiaolin may not be to Josephine's liking after being raised by her in the past 2 months. And during this period of Cold War with Xiaolin, Lily occasionally had free time besides going to work. When she had free time, she found a part-time job. When she had extra time, she hired 2 men and women to play cards in a nightclub. They almost always won. She didn't have to support Josephine. She saved more than 3,000 yuan in the past 2 months, plus the first time she won more than 1,000 yuan from a nightclub. She seemed to have nearly 5,000 yuan in total. After saving the money for her air ticket back to her hometown, Lily found a florist the next day and asked them to deliver a bouquet of red roses to Xiaolin in person at a price of 300 yuan per day. She wrote the cards that needed to be placed among the flowers every day, paid for the flowers for 5 days, and then left. When Xiaolin went to work the next day, he remembered the scene where he stayed close to Josephine's house last night. He felt a little regretful, but he couldn't bear to say that he wanted to move out. He didn't sleep well all night and was listless. When he went to work, everyone in the company stared at him in surprise. The company has a large number of graduates coming in every year, and Xiaolin is just one of the most inconspicuous people. In the past, he was not eye-catching in the company. When so many people looked at him at first, Xiaolin felt a little embarrassed, until he saw when a flower delivery guy at his seat respectfully handed him a large bouquet representing love, he was completely stunned. To be continued.